See, it says rotate your phone. All right, this is Melissa Ryan joining you with Reaca Pearl. And I'll have them introduce themselves shortly. I want to speak to the title, which is, Why is it so difficult for me to feel good? And so this talk is for anyone who identifies as having complex trauma or is just really struggling with, they try all these different ways to feel good and they're just not sure why they're still feeling stuck, why it's really difficult to enjoy what we would call life's simple pleasures. Like, why is it so difficult to even just hang out with a kid, whether it's their own or a family member, and not even really be able to enjoy that moment, that it's just, they're feeling stuck. So, Reaca, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and then speak to more why this topic is important to you and why would we be talking about it.
Sweet. So, I'm Reaca, as you've heard, and it's distracting because we have two phones going on. One's Facebook Live and one's Instagram.
We're multitasking.
Yeah! What?
So we can have even greater impact. Watch the influence happen.
So I'm a therapist in Golden, Colorado, and I am a generalist, but I also specialize in trauma, complex PTSD, sexual trauma with adults, and gender. So the reason that this topic is particularly important is because oftentimes, folks come into therapy, probably a lot in your office with couples, and they're like, I don't even know, I don't even care about sex, or I don't even know how to sit with my partner and feel good. It always just feels like a chore or whatever.
Not fun.
Not fun.
Not fun at all.
Hashtag adulting sucks, right? So where I come in, as Melissa and I were talking about, is oftentimes folks with a trauma history, whether that's sexual trauma or something else, if it's a complex trauma history especially, which basically kind of in a nutshell just means history of developmental trauma, like a chronic experience when you were younger. It can be, verbal abuse, belittling from your parents, whatever. It doesn't have to be this big, identifiable one situation where you had this big traumatic experience, but it can be. So when people come in and they don't even necessarily associate their past trauma with their current relationship or current ability to feel pleasure, they start to try to want to walk that path of how do I, feel good, and how do I focus on my pleasure, and how do I enjoy my life or enjoy the simple pleasures, like as I was doing earlier, this delicious cup of coffee.
So tasty. You feel it in your mouth, you feel the warmth.
All the way down as it goes through my body. It's delicious. I love it. But how come it's harder for some people to enjoy those things and then therefore experience an overall kind of tamping down or dullness of life? And when we experience trauma, oftentimes, especially if it's developmental trauma, we experienced something developmentally when we were little kiddos. Often the best thing that we can do in that moment of trauma is dissociate. And dissociate basically is like a really hardcore, extreme form of checking out. You just numb out, you zone out, you go someplace else so that you don't have to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. And if your trauma is long lasting, like a parent